So we are happy to have Chris with us today. Chris is going to share his story of wellness, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what he's experienced. So please welcome Chris to our stage.
Hey, thank you so much. It's nice
Chris,
to see you all
thank you
there.
for being here.
Patrick, nice to see you again, Patrick. I saw you last year. Jenny, Nick, by the way, you rocked it, buddy. Good job. Really, really good job.
Chris, my first question for you, we're opening up the floodgates right off the bat. On your wellness journey, you had what I would describe again as an aha moment, a very clear moment in time where you realized that something needed to change. Tell us about that experience and what that moment was like for you.
So you talk about the letter I wrote to my story about why I do what I do?
Yes.
So to give people reference what I'm talking about, I'd gone through my second divorce. I had a 1-year-old baby. We had separated. I got him 5 times a week on my week. And I used to live a life of victimhood through both my marriages, through my whole life. And one day, about 2 months after the separation happened, and I knew we were going to get divorced, separated and stuff, my boy was 14 months old. And I was struggling. I was really feeling sorry for myself. I was total victim mentality, and I wanted to be comforted. And I had codependencies with my mother, and I didn't reach out to her, but I decided I was going to pick up my little boy, and almost demand that he, not verbally, but I just picked him up, and I wanted him to comfort me because I was in so much pain, all the pain that had been caused in my life from what I had done to what other people had done to me, and that's what I did. I picked him up, and I wanted him to comfort me. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. So what happened is, the reason why I knew it wasn't good is because I went back in time in my head while I was holding him, and I realized I was repeating the cycle. I was repeating the same story it had done to me. My father did it to me. My mother did it with me. My mother and father got separated at 4 when I was around 4 or 5, and they were apart. And I stayed with my dad. And I remember my dad just hammering into me without realizing he was doing it, that I was there to, what he had given up for me, what he was doing for me all the time was a lot of, you must comfort me, son. So that was embedded into my life. That was just brought right into me. And I lived a life of that, of constantly doing that in any relationship, with my guy friends, to romantic relationships, even coworkers. And I just remember holding my son. I'm going to fast forward through the whole thing. I remember just holding him, and I just realized, what am I doing? I love this boy. And, there's that I would say this before in a lot of my shows and stuff I would do, is that Meatloaf song, I would do anything for love, but I just won't do that. Well, I would do anything for my son, meaning I would do anything, which means I need to do one thing, and that was forgive myself. I had to forgive myself before I could forgive my parents, believe it or not. Because I had to move, I had to really accept what I had done and gone through my own life. Not what happened to me when I was 4 years old, 5 years old, no. But what happened to me was just built up a life of what happened, what everything I would do with people and stuff like that constant self-shame, that story I just shared about my size and stuff, that was just one thing. It would be a constant thing to fill the void in my life. And there was that codependency in any relationship. So when I picked him up, held him like that, and I remember putting him down, wiping the tears away, and just I am no longer to pass my sins on to my son. And from that day on, I started getting to the right books, getting around the right people, outcome focused with boundaries. Nick, I love you said your outcome focused thoughts and stuff. That's so great to be outcome focused, as long as you're outcome focused with boundaries and not outcome focused just straight out and just forget about anything else. So I did that. And when I did that, it was man, thousands of pounds just came right off. It's I used to say I would be floating in water, but drowning in water, and somebody just pulled the plug out of the bathtub, and the water started coming down. So I could start I don't have to worry about drowning anymore, because I started taking control of my life in the right way. I always was trying to control things, but I had no idea the tools that were given to me were the wrong tools to use. So hope that answers something what you're asking about.
Absolutely. And I love that you use that comparison. It's like you were able to breathe, right? That weight was lifted, the drowning subsided, and it feels like you could just take a deep breath. So going back to the forgiveness piece, and you mentioned that you needed to forgive yourself first. What did that look like for you? How did you realize that? And what did you do? Was there something like, was there a process that you used? How did you come to that realization? And how did you proceed with that? What did you do to forgive yourself?
I wish I could give you like an actual thing that could happen. That moment with my son was pretty magical because I was able to, like I said, breathe or let go, but I was also able to like have clarity and realize that my mom and my father did the best they could. You know, my ex, his mother and I, whether how the relationship ended and stuff like that, I know the two of us did the best we could, even knowing what we were. Like, she was with a man who constantly lived as a victim. She had her own things that I would love to have like been different. I'm sure she had things that, well, I'm admitting mine right now, like the victimhood. Like, I was like, it's just horrible. Like, who wants to live with some man who's like supposed to be a strong man, also that's constantly whining inside their head the whole time? I don't have to say it out loud, but if I'm constantly, the shoulders are drooped over, this confident man who was really not confident at all, I just realized like, it just came clear. Like, I just needed to like let it go. And I said, you know what, I'm no longer going to do this. What has happened is my fault for what I do. What has happened to me is not my fault, but my parents weren't, they weren't abusive to me. They weren't hitting me and something like that. I just the parenting mindset and stuff that went over. They did the best they could. Look at the way they grew up. I'm not going to share their story. So they did the best they could. I just get to stop it. And I get the privilege and the honor of getting to share that with my son. Like, it's been 5 years this June. I have the most amazing relationship with my son. It's absolutely amazing, the connection I have with him.
Right.
So,
and I think that, that shift from victimhood to responsibility is really quite freeing, even though it seems a bit contradictory, but it can be very freeing for us, and making that shift. So you were able to get there and forgive yourself. You mentioned that, you had to forgive yourself before you forgave your parents. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you've been able to do? Have you, have you been able to forgive them? And again, how did you do that? Was it through a conversation? Was it, just emotionally, energetically? What did that look like?
So I grew up pretty angry at both my parents. Like, I had a relationship with them. I had a very tumultuous relationship with my mom for a long time. Because I didn't, like I said, didn't have the tools. So I'm gonna go back to answer your first question before we get to that. And that's like, why did I do it first? The reason why I was able to do it with me first, it came clear to me first, because I wouldn't be able to forgive somebody else. If you cannot love yourself, you did not know how to share love to somebody else properly. So if you can't learn to forgive yourself, how are you supposed to put that onto somebody else? You can forgive them all you want, but it's gonna come back with resentment and everything else, because you have not really truly worked on the thing that really needs worked on. That's the person that's in your head all the time. And that's you. Now, the voices that were in my head, like my father's voices of who he thought I was and what I could be, and all stuff that would always play in my head. I had to deal with that. I had to deal with my mom's expectations of me as a son and stuff like that. I had to deal with that. But I love both of them to the end. So I had a very tough time with my mom for a long time, but I let it go. And when I let it go, what an amazing relationship. Because forgiving somebody isn't letting them off the hook. And I think so many people out there really think that let somebody off the hook. My mom's not off the hook for what she did. And she wasn't a horrible person. She just did, like I said, she did the best she could. I'm not off the hook for what I did, but I take responsibility for it, and we can have dialogue for it. My father chose a different direction. The reason why I stopped my show is because I was coaching people on parenting, and I have an amazing relationship with my son. I teach people how to communicate and work through, especially father-sons, how to work through that dynamic and stuff, and how to pass proper mindset, proper masculine energy to their son and stuff. My father and I hadn't talked in 7 years, and he passed away just last April. And he made it clear he did not want me knowing he was dying. So I didn't get to know he was dying. It just, boom, I found out. My ex-wife sent me flowers saying, hey, your father passed away. That's how I found out. I didn't know he was dying. My brother didn't tell me anything. I was like, so I didn't want to do my show anymore. It's like, you know what? Who am I? I'm like this charlatan, this snake oil salesman. Like, they have this great relationship, but I couldn't even have one with my father. So, and what did I do? I didn't take ownership. The fact is that was his choice. So it took me months to go through the grieving process to realize that was his choice. I wanted a relationship with my dad, but I wasn't going to do it without proper boundaries. And my dad couldn't be trusted for those boundaries. I could never look at my son and say things that he said to me. And that's fine. That's how my father dealt with his pain, how he chose to accept where he did in his life. I accepted that that's not what I want in my life, and I was not going to share that with my son. Not share my dad and my relationship, but just I wasn't going to pass that down to him. And I really encourage anybody out there who's listening, it's okay for you not to have a great relationship with your parents. They're people too. They brought you in. You hope you have this great dynamic with them. You hope you grow with them, grow old, that they have a great marriage, all that stuff, and that beautiful parts that's in the movies and stuff. And it is real in some ways. I do see that in some of my friends. But it's okay to have proper boundaries with those who you love. If you have an open, I always say, you have an open soccer field with no fences whatsoever. 7 a.m, you wake up, everybody walks all over your property. You're like, excuse me, stop that, we'll stop that. But you're sharing all your life stories to everybody, all your victimhood with no proper boundaries. Everybody's getting all your, almost swore, all your stuff for nothing. For what? Because you're screaming in pain. So what do you do in pain? You retreat back to the castle in that boat, and you don't let anybody in now. No one's getting in. We got to find when we always do correction, like everything that's going in society right now, we always say things correct and the pendulum swings too far. We got to slow that pendulum down so it gets to the middle. And that's that nice house with a fence where you got a gate, you let people in. Oh yeah, you're allowed on my property. That's okay. We'll talk. Okay, well, it's time for you to go. Proper boundaries in anything in your life will create freedom. Structure, proper habits all come from great boundaries. So I don't want to rant there. I apologize.
That's a great analogy. I mean, it's like the analogy of, letting people walk through your mind with dirty feet. Yet some of us do that to ourselves all the time. So I love that. And I appreciate it. And I really want to congratulate you and, acknowledge you for breaking the pattern in the relationships that from father to son. And I want to ask you, for those parents that are in the crowd, whether it's, moms or dads or whatever gender kids they have, what type of advice, is there one piece of advice that you would give to the parents in our audience to help build or strengthen the relationship with their kids?
Okay, I don't know if a certain age group is a different throat. There's like the basic, I always say one thing, you guys, remember this is like, I quote this all the time. It's not mine, maybe I heard somewhere else, but I always say it all the time. If you want to make a correction in anybody's life, whether it's your coworker, like an employee, to wife, husband, and that's not your job to make a correction in life. But if you want to instill some wisdom in their life, you must make a connection with them first. Connect with them before you correct. That's it, as simple as that. I connect with Riven before I make any correction with him. He's melting down in the store. I watched a woman today at Walmart. Her child was melting down in the store. And it's not my place to go and say anything. So I don't. I would love to go up because then we take it as a judgment. I don't want to be stereotypical, but a mother would take it up as a judgment on me. I'm a bad mother, and we have to now deal with that conversation, opposed to the fact is that, hey, I just saw I think you're doing an amazing job. I know how hard it is. My kid melts down too. And my son melted down the other day. At Walmart, same thing. What I wanted to do with her is what I would love to tell her is what I did with my son. No, I know it's hard. Oh, you're feeling that. And I just get into what he's feeling because his frontal cortex at 4, 5, 6, is not working. It's flipped. Oh, I want toy. I want this. I want my iPad. He wanted to bring an iPad into Walmart because he had nothing to do, he said. We always have fun. I put him in the shopping cart, he'll blow, and I pretend that he's so strong with his wind that he's Superman and he's blowing me away, and I push the cart away and I go run up to catch him and stuff like that. I'll do fun stuff with him all the time. He had nothing to do? No, he had stuff to do. It was something else. So what do we need to do? He just said he didn't want to be doing stuff like that. He wanted to be back doing fun stuff with me again. Well, we all know we have responsibilities, can't do fun things all the time. We'd love to as parents, but the thing was, I got down on his knees. We do a breathing exercise. We breathe, we calm down, we breathe in, we calm down. And once again, regulated, I move on. And then I do the correct, then I go down one more aisle. Hey, you remember back then that happened? And then I talk to him. Trust me, I had a recent girlfriend that didn't work out and stuff that she would always say to me, man, you are so patient with him. why can't you be patient like that with everybody else? Because I'm very impatient with a lot of people, because I'm like, come on, you should already know this. I get very impatient. I get that with coaching clients. Like, come on, how many times do I have to tell you over and over again? Like, let's go. Like, you're not practicing, you're not doing it. So don't give me this crap, right? And it's like, I need to take that in my spot to put that to apply it to any relationship. I'm not saying I might hold your hand, Marcy, let's go through a breathing exercise, but I mean, let's regulate before we go through something. Same thing with him. So that's what I do with parents. I just tell them, do you not remember what it's like? Like, put yourself in their spot. Put yourself in their spot before you, as the parent, help crush their dreams of what they wanted. Like, the sky is this big. My son keeps telling me that the states are this big and Canada is like this big. So states are really small. And my son, well, actually in the size, are actually almost the same size. They're only off by a little bit. No. States are smallest. And I'm like, okay, but he's got this imagination. And what do I want to do? Crush it? No. So how do I explain to him? I let him go with it for a little bit. Right. Again, I can go on forever with my son, so I shouldn't.
But we'll shift gears just a little bit. Part of your, your story and your experience really deals with a lot of pain. And I think we all experience pain, whether it's on our wellness journey or some point in our life. Do you have any tools or techniques that you can share with our audience to help move through that pain? So sometimes we just, again, like we're in almost that victim, mentality, and we're not ready to take responsibility. And we're like, why is this happening to me? And it hurts like hell. How can we shift out of that?
Well, people struggle with different things in their minds. Okay. So let's go. The best way to do it. Do you know the difference between empathy and sympathy is? There's a huge difference.
I do, but share.
Okay. So sympathy, you ever heard the expression, just has some sympathy for them? I mean, that's the worst thing you can actually have for somebody, in my opinion, because sympathy drives disconnection between people. If I would say sympathetic, well, it's like, something horrible happening, like, well, at least, you still can do this now. Did I connect with you? No. Did I try to change the subject? Did I try to make it maybe about me? Maybe I wasn't comfortable talking to you about it. Well, how is that for a dynamic in this relationship? If you and I wanted to have like a serious conversation, you felt safe working with me. That's not helpful. Empathy drives connection. So sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy brings connection in, which means I have to feel what you're feeling, and that's it. So I've gone through relationships and stuff like that where I could really like feel what they're feeling. And a lot of times it would be the cause of like me being stubborn or me being an asshole or something like that. Like, not swearing, I'm not yelling, I'm not hitting, none of that kind of stuff. Just like me just being stubborn. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, I want to do this. No, I don't want to do that. And I have no case of trying to feel like that other person might be feeling in that situation. That total sense of rejection, right? So for the best way for us to work through these things when you're struggling is like, take yourself out. What would you feel like if you're in that spot? And that's our part, because then you said, how do you know if you can't take responsibility? Well, unfortunately, you're going to have to take responsibility if you want to do something. Sorry. Like, I'm straightforward with people like that. If you want to move forward, take responsibility, because you can get further ahead. That's the part where I'm impatient. Fuck, we know what's going on. Come on, let's go. Like, what are we waiting for here? You want me to walk? Like, I do not plow the path for my son, but I will always walk next to him. I do not plow the path for my employees, but I will walk next to them. I will make sure I help give them the tools that they can go forward, but I will not do it for them. And you must understand that. We all must understand that. You cannot get ahead. Because you want to go fast, go by yourself. Want to go far, go as a team. We all know that. So if you want to, how do you go as a team? Well, somebody has to take leadership, and that leadership better not be a dictatorship, whatever, political right now. Don't take that. Just take like that leadership role is like, you don't have to be there. You could be here with everybody else, but say, hey, we got to go do this. I love Band of Brothers. You guys ever watch Band of Brothers? How that guy starts off at the beginning to the end, how he earned everybody's relationship. And the people who they go to the end of those shows, you listen to them, how they talk about the real character, how that man worked and earned their trust. And they love them, because that's true leadership. He didn't take himself above everybody else. He didn't say it was because of me they did that. I don't say, hey, because of me, Riven gets to do this. He also has a mother who loves him to death too. Like she has a totally different lifestyle over there, but he's learning from two different people. And I know for a fact that she loves him to death. I know, because she had a son from her previous marriage before I have a stepson of mine who I watched her adore. So I know my son gets to learn, but I don't sit there and say it's because of me he gets to do this. I just get to be lucky to be a part of it. So, and that's what it is. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I love that. I love the idea of being the observer in those situations. And, like you said, taking yourself out of it. Some people compare it to like watching yourself in a movie. And I also love this piece that you're bringing in about that support system and being the team. It's a lot like what Nick said about calling his mom, right? Like just having that support. So my last question before we open it up to the floor, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. In pursuit, what does that mean to you? That, that's your tagline, that's your business name, but what does it mean to you? Why did you choose those words?
It was interesting because it was going to be connection matters. And then I remember seeing the clip of Matthew McConaughey doing his speech at the Oscars when he said that his 3 things he's chasing. And then the last one was himself. And I love the way he said it in his speech for his acceptance for the Oscars and stuff, and how he said that he's always chasing after himself from 10 years from now. And when he gets there, he's still chasing that guy another 10 years from now. He's never going to catch him. And as long as you do that in a healthy way, it's not perfectionism, because perfectionism is the lowest standard you can put on yourself because it's unattainable. So, whatever, I'll never attain it. And you lose so much sight of everything else. So like, it's as long as you can pursue something. So I was in pursuit. It's your journey is what my tagline is, because we're all in pursuit of something, but what are you focused on? What's your goals? And I'm looking forward to restarting my business back up. Like I took a hiatus since my father died. I made that clear there right. Like I stopped taking clients after that. I stopped doing my show. I'm looking forward to going back into it. Like, I'm not that snake oil salesman. I realized that was just my fear talking. And thank you, Nick, for sharing stuff about fear. It's BS. So it's there. That's real, but it doesn't have to control you. And I allowed that to control you. So I'm looking forward to it. And there's another prime example of somebody in pursuit of growing something better, persevering through it. So
awesome. Okay, we got some questions here. I know we're almost out of time, but we're going to get through them really quickly.
No worries.
So Mike says, thank you for sharing. The brain is such a powerful tool. Keeping a positive attitude can go a long way. Things do not change overnight. Do you feel keeping that positive attitude helped you with your wellness journey?
Oh, I don't know if I really had the positive attitude all the time. I definitely didn't, but the outcome of the end was definitely key for me. I think I just looked at my son a lot. I looked at pictures of him, my time together, and I realized that was my end goal was, hey, if I really don't want to be what I was before, and I always have to be working. Instead of always be closing, always be working. So I had to. My son means the world to me. And for that to be, I need to be the world for myself so I can show him the best.
Beautiful. So another question here. If you could leave parents with one piece of proactive advice when dealing with their children's tantrums, what would that be?
Oh, shit. Okay, I get flack from this because my sister's going to watch this later. She says it's not as easy because I have one kid. So any one of you have more than one kid, don't be sitting there like, it's not that easy. If you have a great partner with you, hopefully it gets easier with that. But honestly, your kids, all they want is connection. I know that's a cliche. All they want is time. But really, when we think about it, how much time are you really giving to them? Quality time. Like my son, I'm not around him all the time. When he's here and stuff, he goes and does what he wants to do. But when I spend time with him, it's quality time. It's connection time. He loves physical touch. We got to be on the couch watching a show. He wants me to be right next to him, rubbing his feet or something like that. That's great. But then when he asks questions about the most ridiculous things like, Daddy, are you stronger than the planet? I'm like, of course I am. That's why it's still here. I allow it to be here. I say stuff like that, but he just thinks it's hilarious. But connection time, I don't know how to tell him any different than that. Time is so important. Time is the greatest commodity of the world. I want everyone to remember that, because if you can prove me wrong, I'm open to you here. You can't create more time. And the greatest resource in the world is relationships. So if you can do both of those together properly, you'll live a happy life. I promise you that.
Last question. Nick says, you're awesome, Chris. What are you most excited about as you continue with your coaching business?
My self-growth, selfishly enough, my self-growth. Because the better I become for me, the better I could be for other people. Because like you said, you're a giver and all that stuff like that. The problem is I want to fix everybody and I can't fix anybody if it's not my job. And I'm really realizing now fixing people is actually an actual problem I have. It's actually an issue I have because no one's asking me to fix them. First of all, second of all, it's not my responsibility. And who the hell am I to stand around and say, hey, you need fixing? They don't. I'm so happy the fact that the more knowledge I learn, the more wisdom I gain, the more impact I can have on those around me. So that's why Our Deepest Fear is my favorite poem. So it's what we do that can liberate other people is probably the most important thing in my life.
Amazing. Amazing. Chris, thank you so much for being here. Nick, thank you for being here as well. You guys have been absolutely incredible, and I can't wait for the rest of our community to see and listen to what you shared. Chris is absolutely right. Time is such a precious commodity, and we appreciate each and every one of you being here and spending your time with us and the relationships that we're building here within Your Holistic Earth.